If tech feels impossible to break into right now, you're not imagining it. I'm seeing smart, capable people doing everything they're told to do, learn the skills, build projects, and apply consistently and still go nowhere. And it's not because they're bad. The industry just quietly changed how it filters people, and beginners are getting hit the hardest. So in this video, I want to explain what actually changed, why the old advice stopped working, and how to adapt without burning yourself out. So if you're new, my name is Zazo. I'm currently a senior data analyst. I've been working in data analytics for 4 years, and previously, before that, I worked in software engineering. So I know a little bit about tech and where it has come in the last almost decade. So back in 2015 to 2021, kind of my era of really getting into tech, you could really do a couple of things. You could go straight from a boot camp and be able to get a job. You can be some type of full stack junior, or you can learn some of the most basic different things. And kind of, if you were able to code and do, I wouldn't say almost the bare minimum, then you had a decent shot of getting an opportunity. At that point, there were low interest rates, explosive growth. Companies could really afford to bet on people that had potential. Companies at that point would hire for promise, not necessarily for precision. So what came with this is all of these different companies started basically over hiring for all of these positions because they had the money, they had the resources to kind of train these juniors and just kind of hire somebody based on pure potential. However, what that led to now is what is kind of taking place in the market is the market is correcting. So we have fewer open roles. AI is automating very, I would say, basic technical tasks like writing SQL queries, writing basic code, boilerplate code, and things like this. And teams are actually shrinking but have higher expectations because of this AI boom. So this isn't about layoffs, it's about efficiency. So at this point, you're probably seeing a lot of entry level or junior level roles requiring years of experience. So you may ask, how am I supposed to be a junior fresh out of college but have 3 to 4 years of experience? That's because junior or entry level is no longer meaning college graduate with no experience. They are moving the goalpost, and it is just an entry level role, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily for beginners or someone without experience. So junior does not mean beginner anymore. So with this being said, the entry level role, what companies are actually looking for is someone who can start providing value immediately. Previously, in the old era, what would happen is you would hire on a junior. It'd probably take them 6 months to a year to actually be able to do anything worth doing. But up until that point, you could kind of invest, and based on their potential, say after that year, then we'll start seeing an ROI. Basically, as soon as you get hired, being able to provide value, be able to really justify their reasoning for hiring you, which has led to companies being a lot more selective and picky. Basically, the junior level role as we know it previously is kind of not really there anymore. So back when I was getting started, you can kind of be a generalist and know about a bunch of different things and kind of had this broad knowledge of coding or whatever the business area of the industry might be. But now this is the era of specialization. Being a generalist is not going to get you where you need to go. So for everybody stacking up all these skills in all of these different areas, it's just not going to work. Usually these days, teams are going to want somebody that is very specialized in doing a specific thing. This kind of ensures that you are able to solve problems immediately because you only spend your time doing that one thing rather than a whole bunch of different things at a very surface level. So some examples of these valuable specialists are things like analytics engineer, somebody like backend infrastructure. So whereas before you could have a full stack, full stack engineer, and they'd be able to do a little bit of front end, a little bit of back end, or maybe like, mid-level in both. But now you're having things like back-end infrastructure, which specifically deals with infrastructure and that specialization. You also have stuff like data quality, pipelines, security specific, cost optimization, and something like machine learning operations. So this is the key thing right here. A specialization does not mean being narrow. It means being useful from the beginning. Here's why generalists are actually struggling, because everything looks the same. Resumes look generic. There's no narrative. You can't answer what you actually do because you are doing so many different things at such a high level that you can't speak in depth to what you do. So this is a way to kind of reframe your thinking. Hiring managers are not worried about if you can learn, which was a very big focus back in the old era of can you learn these things? It's really about, can you solve this tomorrow? Can you start working on this ASAP? No, Rocky. So now I told you about all the changes that are going on. So now I'm going to give you how to win in 2026 in tech. So it's a 4-step playbook. The first thing you're going to want to do is pick a problem. You don't want to pick a role. Pick a problem to solve. Then after that, you're going to go deep, no diddy, not wide. Right? So you want to get a very deep depth of knowledge in that specific area or problem, and you don't want to go and try to solve every single problem that there is. The next thing you want to do is you want to build proof that you can actually solve this problem, solve it well, and solve it efficiently. The next thing is you want to tell a clear story. And so let me give you an example of this. So instead of saying something like, I'm a junior data analyst, you might want to say something like, I help companies optimize cost savings by automating repetitive tasks that deal with X, Y, and Z. So you want to be very specific, and that's how you want to frame yourself and position yourself. So this is kind of what I see while speaking to junior analysts or aspiring data analysts, and even what I've seen with aspiring software engineers. And this is what a lot of people will continue to do wrong, which is why you need to do the opposite. People are continuing to panic, learn more tools and more skills. What does this do? This takes away from you actually solving a problem and just gets you stacking skills, which I like to think of it kind of as not necessarily a queue because you're not waiting, but for example, if you have 4 things that you're learning, let's say SQL, Python, Excel, and Tableau. The more you're learning Python, let's say you used Tableau and you did your course or whatever, now you move to Python, right? You learn Python. Your Tableau knowledge is getting weaker. As you go and learn Excel, right? Your Python and Tableau is getting weaker. All of these 3 things underneath it are getting weaker because you're so focused on this skill. So that's not what you want to do. You don't want to stack these skills like this. You want to use the skills that you have. You learn enough to do and solve a problem, and you continue to use those skills. It could be 2 or 3, and you use those specific skills to continuously solve problems. What that does is that allows you to actually understand how to use these skills rather than just stacking them. The next thing that we're going to do is, which I see a lot of people do, is chasing trends. So I see a lot of people trying to pivot to AI engineer when they have a steep learning curve as far as getting there, just because it's something that's hot and popping right now. People, including myself when I first started, will avoid depth because depth is very uncomfortable to get to know something very, very deeply when you can just learn, the top level of every single thing and feel like you're learning and being productive. You really want to avoid this. And another thing is the same thing they say in the stock market. I'm just waiting for the market to recover, which you can do, but there's one thing you can't do is you can't predict when that will be, and that can affect you for years at a time. So the way to think of this is the market isn't broken. Expectations have just changed. Unfortunately, the easy role, which I luckily was able to take part in as well, where you can learn a decent amount of these different things and be able to get a job and kind of learn on the job, are over, at least for now. So you really have to lock in and hone in on your knowledge and be able to be ready to hit the ground running when you join a company. That's just, I don't know what other thing to say about it. So tech isn't dying. It's just the easy tech era that we were in was just temporary. But if you specialize, build proof, and communicate clearly, there's still opportunity for you out there. So if you want more honest takes on tech careers, subscribe. Love, peace, and chicken grease.